Hi, everyone. Thanks for joining. So I've just started the recording, and I'll go ahead and start the presentation now. So my name's Julia. I'm a product manager at Protocols.io. We also have my colleague Emma Ganley here in the background. She'll be monitoring questions and will help answer questions at the end as well. So today I'm going to be giving the tips and tricks webinar. So this is a more advanced webinar where I dive into some of the deeper functionality with Protocols.io. So hopefully you've already used Protocols.io and are familiar with some of the basic concepts. So as you would have seen just before I started the recording, so you will receive a link to the recording as well as the slides after the presentation. Closed captioning should also be enabled if you choose to use it. And there will be time at the end for questions and answers, but if you have questions that come to you during the presentation, feel free to pop them into the Q&A or chat just as they're coming to you. And I'll show some more details at the end, but if you're interested, you can also check out additional webinars or request a demo at these links on our website. So as a quick agenda, I'll briefly give an introduction and refresh about, why Protocols.io exists. Then I'll talk about some of the different terminology that we use on the platform, such as fork, version, and copy. I'll then show you how to use our new AI protocol importer. This is something that makes it a lot easier to import protocols to the platform that you might already have drafted in Word or PDF format, and it's available for everyone to use. And then I'll jump into the live demo. So we'll go on to protocols.io and I'll go into things like advanced protocol editing, showing the run functionality, task reagent manager, as well as how to create and publish collections. So I won't spend too much time on this, as I'm sure you're all aware, but this slide is to demonstrate that it's really hard with current method sharing to reproduce experiments. And this is a statistic from a Nature survey that 70% of scientists within that survey said that they've failed to reproduce experiments. Aside from method sharing in the reproducibility context, there's also selfish reasons for documenting your protocols in the private context. So these pictures here show that just demonstrate that really your most likely future collaborator is probably going to be yourself. And this article is in the context of code, but it talks about when you hurry to do something, you spend less time documenting why you did it, and then you have to take more time in the future figuring out what past you was trying to achieve. And so really the best practice is to be as explicit and clear as possible while you're carrying out that process. So it can be clear for future you, your collaborators, or anyone else who wants to use that protocol in the future if you publish it. So it is an investment in time upfront, but it will pay off in the long run. And so with protocols.io, we make it easy to share and document method details. So before, during, and after publication. And as another refresh, if you're not familiar, there are the two sides of protocols.io. So it's an open access repository where it's free to publish and view scientific protocols. And then there's the private collaboration side, where you can add your own private content and develop and optimize your protocols with your colleagues and collaborators. So after that introduction, I'll hop right in and talk about fork versioning and copying. So you might have seen these things on the protocols that you view on the platform. So we can see here, this is the top of a protocol. If it is forked, it will have this badge that says where it's forked from, and there will be a link to the protocol that it's forked from. So with forking, anyone can create a fork, and it's always linked back to the original protocol that it's forked from. Anyone can also publish the forks that they've created. The reason that you might fork a protocol is that you want to reuse that protocol for a different situation. Maybe you have different equipment in your lab. Maybe you are doing a different sample type, a different species, or a different strain, whereas the general protocol is the same, but you need to make small tweaks and modifications for those different circumstances. The next is versioning of a protocol. So this is where, it's the same protocol for the same situation, but you as an author may want to update it over time as you improve that protocol. So versions, again, are always linked to previous versions. On protocols.io, you can see all the versions when they were created or published, and you can go back and view them. And anyone can create new versions, but only the owner of the original protocol will be able to publish those new versions. And the reason, other reasons you might be creating new versions is if there was an error in a previously published step and you want to correct that error, or again, as I said earlier, if you make optimizations to that protocol. And then there is the copy functionality. So this is probably a little bit less used than fork and versioning, but it can still be quite useful. So only the protocol owner or co-admins of that protocol can create copies. And this is because there's no link back to the original protocol. So why you might want to create a copy is if you kind of want to use that original protocol as a template for other protocols. It might be you're creating a collection of protocols and they have the same abstract, same authors, same affiliations. To save you from entering that information over and over again, you can create a copy of the same abstract authors affiliations and then change the steps in the protocol to be something completely different. So this is an example here. It was a collection of protocols. So he has one protocol with the background and rationale, another one with some hypotheses and objectives, and another one for the study design. So all the kind of initial metadata details are the same, but the steps of those protocols are different. Hopefully you're familiar with the different ways that you can create and get protocols onto protocols.io, but I will highlight in terms of importing protocols from existing text. As I said before, we now have the new AI import option. And I'll show you how you can access that. So when you're in your file manager, you can go up to create to new and then upload a file from your computer. So this could be a Word or PDF file. Once you've uploaded that into your file manager, we can see we've got a test protocol PDF here. You need to click on that document and you'll see in this pop-up here on the right, there'll now be an option to create a new protocol from this file. And so if you click on that, you'll have to say yes to a few different options, and then takes time depending on the size of the protocol, but a protocols.io protocol of that document that you've uploaded will then appear in your file manager. So it is an AI importer, so it's not going to be perfect. So you will need to review that document for accuracy and completeness, especially if you're going to be publishing that protocol afterwards. But this can save a lot of time with converting documents from the Word or PDF files into the protocols.io protocol and then allow you to publish it. So we released this just at the end of last year, so it is still in development. If you are using it and you have any feedback or comments on it that you want to share with us, we really always welcome feedback. And I can show you at the end of this presentation on how to do that as well. If you are already familiar with the insert steps from text feature, which has been available for a while, you can still use that. And you will access that by creating a new protocol. And in the protocol editor, you would click this insert steps from text button here and paste the text that you want to import into the box and maybe choose how you want to split it, if each number line is a step and things like that. So this can still be really useful if you have a small piece of text that you want to import, or if you want to make changes to the way the AI importer has imported your text. So now I will jump into the live demo. So some basic functionality that I won't be covering in the demo is any more details about importing protocols, how to search for published protocols, the basics of publishing a protocol, and also kind of the basic concepts and features of workspaces. But those are covered in some of the intro webinars that we run. So you can watch those if you would like. But I will be covering, as I said before, advanced protocol sharing, editing, run, task manager, reagent manager, and creating and publishing collections. So I will stop sharing and then reshare on protocols.io. Hopefully everyone can see the protocols.io editor. Yeah, that looks okay. So you should be somewhat familiar with the editor. Hopefully everyone knows how to insert a step and insert a new section. So you can click this insert step button here. Alternatively, you can click this plus button to insert a step, or if you press Alt and click that, you can insert a subsection, a sub-step as well. You can insert sections here on the right as well. And if you want to change what steps appear in what section, you can do that as well. So if I select multiple steps, I can then set the section for the selected steps and change them to be in another section if I choose. So I'll talk a little bit about wet lab and computational components. So people use protocols.io for both types of research. And these are the components here on the right. If I want to, I can filter by the type of research that I'm doing. If I'm only doing computational research, maybe I only want to look at computational components. You can also favorite components that you use very often. And then if you click on this star button at the top, it will show your favorited components. And so this is showing I've put in the amount component, and then this is the timer component and the temperature component. And what I'll also show is an example of some protocols and so you can see how the components have been used by other people who are using protocols.io. And using these components comes in really useful when you're using the run feature, which I'll show later as well. And I'll show how that can be incorporated. And these are some examples of computational components that you can add. So you can link to things like software, data sets. You can also put in commands, and you can also nest other protocols if you want. So this is a published protocol, and it's a nice example of the steps and use of components for wet lab research. So you can see in that here they've added in their amounts, temperature, timers, centrifuging information as well. So it's a short protocol, but we can see that they've made nice use of the components. And then this is another protocol that's more computational. So you can see they've put links, they've talked about different files, they've added in a command and additional details about the commands. And I think they've also put in an image of what the expected result might be as well. So this is a nice, you can look it up if you'd like, a nice computational protocol. So next, I'll talk about adding in attachments, images, and videos into your protocol. So if you want to attach a file, and actually I do also have a nice example of a protocol with file attachments as well. So this protocol here for an analysis, so you can see they've added lots of different files that people can then download from that protocol. And it supports lots of different file types as well. So there's, I think this one's a HTML file, zip file, Excel file. And I'll show you how to add that in. So if I click into this step, I'll go up to the toolbar here on the top and attach file. So I can browse my computer for files that I have, or alternatively, I can select files that might already be in my protocols.io file manager. So I'm just going to select this PDF file, and you can see it's then shows up like that in the protocol. If you want to add an image, you'll go up to the toolbar as well. So I can insert an image, select from my computer. I'm going to add in this image here, wait for it to upload, and this is the image. So I can make it bigger or smaller. I can, align it to the left, the right, and I can also give it a label as well. If you want to add images, or sorry, if you want to add videos into your protocol, you can add short videos directly into the protocol using using this insert. So you can see it says image/video, but there is a limit to the size of the videos that you can directly attach to the protocol. And so we talk about the file attachment size limits on this file attachment page on our help page. So if you do want to include videos that are larger than 124 megabytes, you'll need to use the embed option to embed a video from another platform. So I'll show you how to do that now. So if I uploaded my video to YouTube or wanted to use an already uploaded video, I can embed it. So I already have this video open here. So on YouTube, what you'd need to do is go to Share, Embed, and then copy this embed link. Go back to your protocol and go up to the toolbar and click Embed Media and paste in your embed code. And then you can see that that video shows up in your protocol, and I can also play that from the protocol as well. There's also a lot of other nice functionality such as tables and plate maps that can be added to the protocol. So if you hadn't had a chance to explore that, I'll show you how. So you will add in a table by going to the toolbar, and you can draw out a table. And you can also change these headings here if you want. Personally, I like leaving them as A, B, and C because then if you're adding formulas in, you'll know the names of the different cells. But if I want, I can right click and I can rename this column. Depending on what you're wanting to use the table for. You can also add formulas. So if I put 1, 2, and let's say I'm going to do a sum of those two cells, I can then type in. So you do need to type the actual cell title in. We currently don't have the functionality to simply be able to click, but if I put A1 plus B1, we can see it's 3. 1 plus 2 is 3. And you can put in larger tables, but the table feature is not meant to be, a replacement for Excel. If you do have a really large, complicated table that you want to include, we recommend uploading it as a file attachment. And so this is a plate map example that I'm going to show you. So if I want to create a plate map, that's a component. So I can go down and click on this well plate map. So I can choose the size that I'd like. These are kind of standard well plate sizes. I could create my own size, or I can import an Excel file. So I'm going to import this file here that I've got. And we can see that it's created this well plate map, and it's pulled in the labels that I had in each of those cells in that Excel file. So this is a 96 well plate. You can see it's quite zoomed in. If I want to see the whole thing, I can zoom out, or I can click here and view the entire plate and make with the text as a readable size. You can also edit or change the color here in the expanded view as well. If I want to add color, I can do that right in here, or I can create templates to show the color. So if I go into template settings, you can create your own custom templates. We have some standard templates that you can pick the coloring for, but I've already created this template that I'm going to use. If I wanted to create one, I would create add, and I can pick the coloring, and it would then be repeated throughout that well plate. So you can see this is a 4x6, but it's going to be repeated throughout my 96 well plate. And so we can see there that we've got nice coloring for the negative, positive control and the values. And then the last thing that I'll show in the editor is the smart component. And so that's a component as well. So I can click here to insert the smart component. And this is going to create a key value table where you can record information that is measured or captured during the experiment, and someone can then fill that out when you're during the run. So I'll add in a new row, and we can do, for example, number of cells, and I could mark that as required or not. If it's marked as required, someone will need to fill that out during the run before progressing to the next step. And we can see what that looks like here. So now we're going to run the protocol, but before I want to do that, I want to talk about nesting protocols within another protocol. So you can see I've nested this other protocol, which is a few steps on making a salt solution. And when I run this protocol that we have open, because I've nested this protocol in using the protocol component, the steps of this protocol will expand as well. And I'll show you that when we run this protocol. So I'll go to view. All right, so this is the run feature. And so if I scroll down all the way to the bottom where I had that protocol, we can see step 16 is this protocol, and then it's expanded those steps as sub-steps. So you can put a bunch of protocols within a protocol if they might need to be completed sequentially. But yeah, there's a lot of flexibility for different things that you can do. But essentially, if I was following this protocol on a certain day and I wanted to capture how I was running that protocol on that day without altering the underlying protocol, I would use the run feature. So I could give it an ID if I wanted to match it to my lab notebook or any other files. And when I'm completing a step, I could mark it as done if I want. And when I do that, we can see that it's recording exactly when that step has been completed and who has completed that step as well. And as I tick these off as completed, we can see how far we've progressed throughout the experiment and, maybe how many steps we have left as well. And so I'll scroll down back to my sample run protocol because this will show a lot of the things that the run can do. So if I go into this step, I could make edits or changes to the step if I wanted to by clicking on edit. So maybe I did something different on this specific day. I can add it directly into the step. Again, the underlying protocol won't change, but I'll know what I did differently on this specific day. And let's say today I want to make 30 mils of my salt solution instead of 10. I can scale up the entire step as well. So I need to make sure that I've clicked to edit it, which I have, and I'll go into settings and I can go and scale that step up by 3. And because I've put those amounts in as components, it will recognize them and scale those amount components up by 3. And so we can see the amounts change and there's been a note made. I could also add in a comment about something different I did on that day, or maybe additional observations. And if I post that, we'll see that there's that comment that's attached to that step. And the timer component in the run works like a real timer. When I press start, it starts counting down, and after 10 minutes or after 5 minutes, an alarm will go off. So I will pause that so we don't get the alarm sounding. And then this is the smart component that I showed before. So it is required to record, what's the color of our salt solution. So hopefully it's colorless. But actually what we can see is because it's marked as required, we can't actually mark this step as done until I put some information in there, and then we'd be able to mark it as done. So that's a little bit about the run feature. Once you've completed a run, you can click Finish Run. It will then become a uneditable record of what was done on that day. But if I haven't clicked finish run yet and I close this window or my computer shut down for some reason, everything is saved and I can go in and reopen it from my file manager. So we can say here, tips and tricks, 17th of March. This is an incomplete run record. When the run records are completed and uneditable, they show up as green. If someone else was in this workspace with me, they would also be able to open up that run record and they could maybe complete that run as well if I, fell sick and they needed to finish the protocol, or if we were working on completing that protocol together. You could also share this run record with other people outside your workspace if you want. So I can click share. I can share with, other researchers. I can type in their name if they're part of Protocols.io, or simply their email, or share with other workspaces, like you would share an individual protocol. Okay, so that's the run. Now I'll show a bit more of the functionality you can use within workspaces, which is the reagent manager and task manager. So if I go to my file manager, this is the workspace that I'm in right now, and I can access the task manager from this link here and the reagent manager from this link here. So I should already have those open. Yes. So this is the task manager, and this is where you can assign protocols as tasks to people in your workspace, or assign general tasks as well. And so we can see I've already got a few kind of sample tasks that I've created, and it's recording if they're open tasks that haven't been started yet, they might be in progress, or what tasks have been closed and completed. This is the list view. There's also a calendar view as well. And we can see the tasks and what days they've been assigned for. So if I want to create a new task, I can do so up the top here. I'll give it a name, new task. New task for tips tricks. I could add additional detail if I wanted in the description here. And so after you give it a title, you do actually have to click save before you can do everything else. And then your changes should be automatically saved. So I could assign a task by itself in the description, or I can also assign a protocol as part of that task. So let's look up tips and tricks, that protocol that we were working on just before. And that means this protocol is attached to this task. And we can also assign that to a specific person. So I'll assign that to myself. And I could assign the entire protocol to myself, or I could only assign a few steps within that protocol. So maybe I'm only going to be doing steps 1 to 5. And I can also choose what date I'm doing that on. So maybe I'll do that tomorrow. And then I want someone else to do the rest of the protocol for me. So I could add another assignee. I've got another Julia as a test in this workspace, and I want her to do steps 6 to 16, maybe on the day after tomorrow. And we can see 2 people have been assigned to that protocol, what steps they're doing, and on which days they should be completing those steps. You can also choose a due date if you want for the entire task. You could add other assignees as well. Maybe if you had like a post-up kind of managing 2 students who were doing the protocol, you could add them as an assignee. And all that information should be saved. So if I go back, we can see there's the new task that I have created. And if I want to delete that task, I can open it back up and delete the task. But importantly, when you assign tasks to people, they will be notified and depending on and receive an email that a task has been assigned to them. So now I'll show you about the reagent manager. And so this is the workspace profile, but I would click on manage reagents and I can see what reagents are within my workspace that maybe other people have created. And I could create a new reagent, put in the basic info about that reagent. If I already had an existing list of reagents, for example, that might be the inventory within your lab, I can upload reagents as well. And so you can upload a CSV file. You just need to make sure that it's in this format that's specified here with the different columns. But this can be a nice way to show people within your workspace what reagents might be available to them. When you do create reagents as part of your workspace, they will stay completely private until the protocol that they're linked to is published, and then they'll show in the publicly available list of reagents on protocols.io. So the last thing I'll show is about collections. So I'll show a nice example of a collection that was published on protocols.io. So these are some protocols that were created and linked to this paper in PLOS Biology. And so there was multiple protocols relating to, kind of growing these Drosophila and preparing media throughout the different things that were done in the paper. But instead of creating, 10 different DOI links and putting the list of 10 DOIs in that publication, you can add all these protocols to a collection. That collection will have its own DOI. And then in the manuscript, you can say, these are the protocols that were used in our research. And then you can have the DOI for that collection. And everyone can see all the protocols that were used. So if you want to create a collection, you can go into your file manager, select multiple protocols. So I've selected these 2 protocols here, and I can click New Collection. I'll also save that collection in my workspace. And those protocols should show up. You can also search what files that you have access to. So if I look up tips and tricks, there's quite a lot of protocols I've got access to. This is a little bit buggy. I'll maybe speak to our team about that. But you should be able to search the protocols that are within your workspaces, and you can select those protocols and add them to a collection. I do have a collection that I've already created before. That has these 2 protocols in it. And if I want to publish that collection, I can go and view it. And then just like you would do with a protocol file, you can publish that collection and you'll receive a DOI to that collection. So I'll move back into the slides and reshare them. One second. Okay. So we've covered all of that information. But if you are using protocols.io and you need any additional help, we do have lots of resources available on our website. So you can go to the Help Center, and we have lots of articles. Separately from the Help Center, we have protocols.io/tutorials, and these are 1 to 2 minute videos that show you how to do different things on protocols.io, like using the AI importer, for example, or lots of other things. And if you are using protocols.io and you run into, any bugs or have any questions, there is a little question mark in the file manager that you can click on to submit your question or feedback or any issues that you have. So you should already be aware of our regular webinars since you're at one today. We do run them 3 times a month across different time zones. And you can see on protocols.io/webinars what are some of the upcoming webinars. If you want to watch through the backlog of previous webinars, you can do that as well. They're all posted on to YouTube. And if you have really specific questions aside from the Q&A today as you're going forward that you want answered by a protocols.io team member, you can request a one-on-one demo. And this is where it will be you and maybe me or Emma if you're in Europe, and we can sit with you and answer any specific questions that you have or talk about how protocols.io can be used for a specific use case that you're thinking of. And you can always email info@protocols.io as well if you are interested in arranging a dedicated webinar for your university or something like that. So that's all the information I have today. So we now have time, I think 15 minutes for Q&A. I will also ask to give some feedback on this webinar. So if you can scan the QR code, or you can also copy the link. So Emma will put that link to the feedback survey in the chat. It's about 10 questions, most of them multiple choice, but it really helps us so we can make sure that these webinars are informative as possible for you watchers. All right, thank you very much. And we're open to questions. Are there any questions that were already asked in the chat, Emma?
No, there have been no questions come through today, so feel free to add them. Or if you want to ask a question, if you put your hand up, we can unmute you. I think it's because you gave such a clear and interesting, informative webinar that people don't have questions.
Yeah, I see one, no questions, very clear. Glad to hear that. Well, I can stop the recording now as well.